Hello, music theory students. Mr. Lefebvre here, talking today about dotted notes and rests. Today we will be talking about rhythms in 4. Simply put, a dot after a note adds 1/2 of what comes before it to the length of the note. So, if we had a dotted whole note, it would receive 6 beats. 4 from the whole note, and then the dot adds half of the note, so 2 more. This would be written as the first beat, with a line, and the next 5 beats on that line. The same would apply for a dotted whole rest, 6 beats, though when writing the counting it would be in parentheses. Dotted half notes are more common and receive 3 beats, 2 from the half note and 1 from the dot, half of the beats from the half note. This would be written as the first beat with a line and the next 2 beats on the line. More often than not, if a composer wanted 3 beats of rest, he or she will use a half rest and quarter rest before using a dotted half rest. However, if a dotted half rest is used, it would be counted the same as a dotted half note, but in parentheses. Dotted quarter notes are also quite common, receiving 1.5 beats. 1 beat from the quarter note and half of a beat from the dot. Counting for dotted quarter notes can be tricky. If the dotted quarter note begins on the beat is listed with a line. The next beat is listed on the line. After this would be written an and. If the dotted quarter note starts on the second half of a beat, it would be listed as an and with a line, with the next beat on the line. As before, dotted quarter rests would appear as the dotted quarter note, but in parentheses. Let's do an example of counting, including dotted notes and rests. Our example begins with a dotted half note. Every measure we write begins with beat 1. Since a dotted half note is greater than 1 beat, we'll add a line. A half note receives 2 beats, and the dot adds 1/2 of that to the duration of the note, making it 3 beats. So we write beats 2 and 3 on the line. The quarter note that follows simply gets beat 4. The next measure begins with a dotted quarter note. Again, we start with beat 1. Since a dotted quarter note is longer than 1 beat, we add a line after the 1. The dot adds 1/2 of the next beat. Since it's the start of that next beat, we write 2 on the line. The 8th note that follows gets the and. The next 8th note is the first half of beat 3, so we write beat 3. The next dotted quarter note also receives 1.5 beats. Since it begins on the second half of beat 3, it receives an and followed by a line. Beat 4 is then written on the line. The third measure begins with a quarter note, simply receiving beat 1. Next is a dotted half rest. A half rest receives 2 beats. The dot gets half of that, making it a 3-beat rest. This is written as a 2, followed by a line, with 3 and 4 on the line, all of which is in parentheses. The fourth measure begins with an 8th note. As it is the first half of the beat, you write beat 1. The dotted quarter rest that follows starts on the second half of the beat, and is written as an and with a line. That uses half of a beat from our dotted quarter rest, leaving a whole beat, which is written as a 2 on the line. As it's a rest, it is put in parentheses. The half note at the end simply receives 2 beats, a 3 with a line, and a 4 on that line. We can also do the reverse, looking at the counting and adding in the notes. In this example, we see 1 with 2 and 3 on a line following it. A 3-beat note is a dotted half note. We then see a 1 with a line and a 2 on that line. Initially, we might be tempted to write down a half rest. However, looking forward, we see that we have only used half of beat 2, so our rest is 1.5 beats long. Therefore, it is a dotted quarter rest. The next and is by itself, so it must be an 8th note. And the next beat, 3, is also by itself, so it must be a quarter note. The first beat of the third measure is also a single beat by itself, a quarter note, and the 2 after that has an and following it, so it must be half of a beat, or an 8th note. The next and has the entire third beat listed on the line, so it must be a note that receives 1.5 beats. A quarter note receives 1 beat, and a dot would add half, making our 1.5 beat note a dotted quarter note. The fourth measure begins 1 and, signifying 2 8th notes, and ends with 2 and a 3 on the line for a half note. To review, dots after notes add 1/2 of the note value to the note's duration, making a dotted whole note 6 beats, a dotted half note 3 beats, and a dotted quarter note 1.5 beats. Thanks for watching.